See if it makes sense.
Yeah. And it worked 18 hours.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So thank you guys for being here. We may be joined by some others, but I want to make valuable use of your time and appreciate you being here on time. So this is the Leverage Summit, which, as it says right here on our front page, the ultimate guide to finding and attracting highly functional team members. And I would say that the scope of what we're going to talk about is even broader than that. It really is a proven process for building a highly profitable team and giving you the time to go along with the money, which is the whole point of a team. Not to make more money, because you can make a whole bunch of cash as an individual agent if you squeeze all the waste and inefficiency out of your business. The problem is you don't have a lot of time to enjoy it. And so this process gives you both time and money. So we're going to walk through that together. If you have it up on your screen, you can follow along. Otherwise, just follow along up here. Okay? So, Nick Saban quote. Nick said, by the way, y'all know who Nick Saban is? Everybody does. You don't have to be a football fan to know who Nick Saban is. It's something he said a few years ago. People assume that everyone wants to reach their potential and be the best they can be, right? We assume that. The Army even recruits to that, right? Join the Army, be all you can be. Here's his observation. I've concluded most only want to be average and do just enough to get by. By the way, how could he draw that conclusion? On what basis would he say something like that? He does, doesn't he? Yeah. Yeah, by actual observation, right? Because does anybody ever say, hey, I want to be average. I want to do just enough to get by. Well, no, what do people say? I want to be the best I can be, right? I want to maximize potential. So you can't really go by what people say. If you're going to be an observer of human behavior, you're going to be watching what? Their actions, what they actually do, because behavior does not lie. Talk is cheap, but behavior does not lie. So behaviorally, let's talk about our own industry for just a minute. Nick was probably referring primarily to the football field, right? But in real estate, what does the typical realtor get from their career? Let's get hard money here, dollars and cents. What does the average realtor make in a year?
According to NAR, way back when, it was 30-something thousand.
Yeah, in 2013 it was 34,000 GCI.
That's about what it was 10 years ago.
Yes, yes. Yeah, those are national numbers, that's correct. And of course, you don't take home all 34, do you? You pay your broker, you've got business expenses, you hope at the end there's enough money left to buy gas to get to the welfare office, right? Because you're going to need food stamps at that type of income. But that's typical realtor income. And we could say on an aggregate level, that is the average. That's the average. And it's either just getting by or not quite, right? You better have a secondary source of income or a working spouse or something at that level. However, I'm going to presume that because you two are sitting in this room, that your aspirations go well beyond average. Okay, well beyond what typical realtor is willing to settle for. And so you're in the right class, because this class teaches a path to abundance. And we have a very particular definition of abundance that we follow, and that is plenty of money. Now, we don't define that numerically, because you know what your financial requirements are, but plenty. Enough and more than enough money to fund your aspirations, and oh, by the way, plenty of time to enjoy it. So it's plenty of money and plenty of time. That's how we define abundance. The time? Yeah. So this class is not really focused on the money part. Okay, that's the bulk of our lead generation, lead conversion classes are focused on the money. This class really addresses the time issue. How do you free up time? How do you reduce the number of hours you're allotting to your career and yet maintain or continue to grow your income? And so that's what the Leverage Summit is all about. Okay? So let's talk about it for just a moment. Why work? Why we would even pursue this path? But let's answer that question directly. Why do you work? Why do you have a career? This is the interactive part.
I like nice things.
Okay, very good. And nice things require money. That's right.
I
Okay. And
have retirement.
okay.
You know, I like nice things.
So you have a host of needs that require money, require funding. Okay. So absolutely. So why do we work? If nobody has a place to write, you could write in there, why work? To make money, just to boil it down to its simplest, okay? So let's talk about that for just a moment. One of our core beliefs is that your time is your life, okay? If you're out of time, guess what? Your life is over, okay? So when you give people time, you are giving them your life. When you give your career time, you are giving your career your life, okay? Those two things are inseparable. So our time or our life is measured in 24-hour increments. Would we agree? That's how we do it today. And within those 24 hours, we have various priorities that we give ourselves to. I mean, some of them are very obvious. You know, our physical needs. We have to eat and sleep, right? That's part of it. We got to shower, got to fix our hair. Those things have to be done. But it goes beyond that. We have emotional needs, mental needs, spiritual needs. All these things require money or time. They require a portion of our 24 hours. We also have relationships that are important, our spouse, family, kids, friends, those type things. In fact, if I were to ask you, what are the most important things in your life, the non-negotiables, you're probably going to come up with things over in this area. Your values, your family, your friends, your beliefs. And so this is what most people would actually describe as their life. You know, my life is what I believe. It's what I stand for. It's the people who are most important to me, okay? Your aspirations. They require time and, oh, by the way, money, right? Time and money are needed. And so there is a third quadrant or a third area that we have to give attention to in our 24 hours, as we already acknowledged, our career, our work to make money. And there's various ways of making money. We're going to look a little bit deeper at that in a moment, the different paths that are available. But we have to have some source of income to provide money to fund what's over here, okay? Now, theoretically, if we were just machines, how many hours could we work in a day? 24, right, but that's theoretical. It's not realistic. It's some subset of our 24 that we're devoting to our career. We wouldn't want to work all 24 even if we could, because our life is over here for the most part. So what we're going to teach is taking a very intentional and proactive approach to the subset of hours that you devote to your career to extract the maximum financial benefit from them. Because if you can maximize the productivity of your work hours, do you know what you can do with those hours? Shrink them to provide more time for what you would consider to be your life. Okay? Creating an unlimited life of abundance requires time and money. An earned income, and by the way, that's where an earned income is where you're receiving a salary. You're trading time for money. Work is a necessity, but you get the money by doing that. With passive income, which is what we're going to be talking about today, generating income from the work of others, the time, energy, efforts, creativity, intelligence of others, ultimately work becomes a choice. Now, I can show homes if I want to. I can go on listing conversations if I want to, or not. And guess what? The money is still going to show up. And I'm going to have the time to enjoy that money. Okay, so when we're fully leveraged, when we have a passive income that fully satisfies our financial requirements, now we have choices. Now we have options. Work is not a necessity because the time and money are both going to show up. Okay, and that's kind of the ultimate goal or the ultimate option that's available to you. We teach a path from being a Tier 1 agent, where Tier 1 means it's just you, right? And I know, Kim, you've got an administrative assistant. You just joined your team part-time. Feynman, is there anybody else working with you?
My assistant quit back in February or March. And
okay.
It's terrible.
Okay, so it is just you?
Yeah.
Okay.
And, I have a few ideas to bring on some people, but not to get too far ahead, but
Yeah.
I want to train them, and then 2 years later they're gone, and I mean, it's just the biggest fear, so
Yes.
I would rather share an assistant with someone that could do the paperwork. That's really what I need.
Yes, an administrative assistant.
Yeah, and I need someone, you know, maybe 1 or 2 buyer's agents that, you know, when I'm out of town or whatever, they can go show property, we can split it up.
Yes.
I could almost negotiate something like that with someone in the office, but I don't even know
Yes.
if that would work, so.
Okay.
I don't know, I'm in between so many different things. I don't want to work anymore. I don't really want to work to create a team because I feel like it's only going to last so long.
Yes.
You know, and that's just how real estate.
Okay, so what you're pointing out is the Achilles heel of most teams, which is that the relationships are short term. Okay? You train an administrative assistant and then she goes off to college, right? Or he decides to pursue a different career. Or, very typically, you hire a buyer's agent, train them in your systems, and then what? They go out on their own and they compete with you, right? And now they know your stuff, right? And they know your clients. And they have the primary relationship with those people who purchased homes, right? So who wants to do that? So we are going to talk about that, I promise. In fact, the strategy that we teach on team building assures long-term win-win relationships. Okay, that's the only kind that we're interested in. Okay, so the goal is to live an unlimited life in a limited amount of time, right? Because we're not going to live forever on this earth, right? So we want to live without limitations within the limitation of time. Okay, and that's what this strategy, this path, enables you to do. So all of us, as we pursue our real estate sales career, we have 4 options. We can be a typical salesperson. Typical meaning average, meaning normal, what everybody else does. And since I don't think either of you have attended our Perspective 1 class, let me define what phase 1 is. This is some nomenclature or verbiage that we come back to again and again. We say there are 3 possible phases in a real estate sales career. Phase 1 is where you're really just getting started and your objective is to generate cash, right? Because you typically have bills to pay when you launch a real estate career. You have to bring some commitment to it. You hope to develop confidence and consistency in phase 1 and just get some cash flowing. Most realtors, or as we would say, typical salespersons, never move on from phase 1. Okay? They learn just enough, okay, to close a few transactions. I mean, average would be 34,000 GCI. Within the RE/MAX organization, by the way, I just heard these figures in Denver 2 weeks ago. Last year, our national average was up to 110. Okay, so we're kind of maintaining that 3 times average realtor production within the RE/MAX organization. But is even 110 enough to satisfy your financial requirements and fully fund your aspirations? So again, don't let anybody define for you what you can be. But most agents, they learn just enough that they get comfortable with some minimal level of just getting by, as Nick Saban said, and they never move beyond that. Level 2 or phase 2 is what we call the mastery phase. Here you're not just generating cash flow, but you're maximizing cash flow as an individual agent. You're honing your skills. You are becoming the best you that you can be. Okay? Again, but as an individual agent, a Tier 1 agent. And you can generate a lot of cash in phase 2. Phase 3, and you see there's a line right here, phase 3 is when you move from individual mastery, maximizing your own potential, to now you are building a team and you are developing others. Here's leverage happens above the line. And by our definition, abundance is only possible above the line. Because you can maximize cash here, you can generate money here, but you can't generate time here. I mean, we all know agents making a couple $100 grand a year, 300 grand a year maybe, who have no life whatsoever. Okay, burn out early. I've known agents like that who made $1 million, $2 million, $3 million in their 30s, and then they're gone. They're living on a beach in Fiji, you know, wearing a loincloth. They can't take it anymore, okay? They had to withdraw from the world. It just became too much. That might be appealing to you, but yeah, they burned out early. Above the line, you have money and time. And you can live the life of your dream and not just fund your aspirations, but live your aspirations. And so that's where abundance happens. So when we talk about phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, that's what we mean. A unique salesperson moves from phase 1 to phase 2. They commit to mastery. Okay? They learn the game. They master the game of real estate sales. A typical entrepreneur is somebody who moves from they move from phase 1 to phase 3. I see this every single day. This is an agent who started generating cash. They're overwhelmed, right, by the responsibilities. Now all of a sudden they got buyers and sellers and they can't take care of everybody. They don't even know where their files are. They can't remember clients' names. Okay, they're just completely overwhelmed. So what do? What's their answer? I'm going to hire help. And here's typically their instruction to their help. Get me organized. Okay? They don't know how to organize themselves. They have never moved to mastery in their business. They're not vital in their business. Their business is full of waste and inefficiency. So what are they delegating to their team member? Waste and inefficiency. And God help them if the team member ever leaves, because they don't know what the team member does. They have no idea how to balance their own books, how to get the postcard mailing out, how to open the client files or track activities. They don't know. Okay? So typical entrepreneur, somebody who's building a business, trying to build a team, but they're just multiplying their inefficiencies. The path that we're going to coach you down is what we call unique entrepreneur. You first become a unique salesperson, you master the sales game, you get completely vital. And when we say vital, that means you're only doing what really matters. You're only engaged in activities that make a difference. You get as close to that as you can. 90% vital is probably as good as a human being can get. Then you begin to build a team. And now instead of delegating and developing around inefficiency, you are simply multiplying, peeling off aspects of vital activities to your team so that you can concentrate still on vital activities, but on the dollar productive vital activities. And you're delegating the administrative and marketing duties. Ultimately, the buyer conversion duties. Okay? Then if you want to move beyond that, the listing conversion duties. Then if you want to move beyond that, the team leader oversight duties. And now, you're what we call Tier 7. You're out of the game if you want to be, okay, at Tier 7. So there's a path to that. So unique entrepreneur is where we're headed. So first decision you have to make is, am I going to be typical? Okay, I'm going to stay in my comfort zone. I'm just going to do what I know to do. Or you're going to be unique. And that means I'm going to get out of my comfort zone initially, mastering my craft. Okay, learning scripts and dialogues. Tracking my results so I can see what is the most efficient and the most effective way to prospect, to generate leads, to convert leads, to service clients, to market that relationship. What is the highest and best use in each of these areas? And then a unique path to entrepreneurship where I'm not expecting my staff to figure it out, but I'm simply peeling off aspects of what I've already been doing and becoming not a micromanager, but a micro-developer of my people so that they can now perform those duties at my level before they take ownership, before I fully release them in it. They can do it as well as I can. And now my ceiling becomes their floor. Okay? I only got to this far, I got them here, but now, because they're going to become a specialist in that area, I was a generalist, I'm having to do everything. That's you right now, I'm doing everything. But they become a specialist in that area, now your ceiling is their floor and they just get better and develop beyond that. Okay, that's where we're headed. That's the path of a unique entrepreneur. Okay? So here's the truth, everyone starts as a typical salesperson. Okay, I got to get a deal, right? I got to make some money. I got to get some cash flow, and the electric bill's coming, the cable bill's overdue, right? So we all start there, but then we face that choice. Am I going to become a unique salesperson? Am I going to move to mastery? Am I going to squeeze waste and efficiency out of my business? And if we choose to go down that path, then we face an additional choice of becoming a unique entrepreneur. Do we want to move from phase 2 to phase 3? Or, as a typical salesperson, we could just say, I'm just going to start hiring people, right? We can become a typical entrepreneur and just multiply waste and inefficiency, guarantee short-term relationships and frustration in our team members and in us, okay? So we're going to coach you down this path first, become a unique salesperson, and then secondly, if you want to, and we would encourage it, become a unique entrepreneur, because that's where the abundance is, money and time, okay? All right, the power of delegation. 5 quick reasons that you want to delegate, that you want to peel off vital activities and give them to others. There's a limited amount of time, right? I said I'm working 16 hours a day. Let's just say I didn't need to eat or sleep, and I could theoretically work 24 today. Can I go beyond that? No! It is impossible by every measure. Time is limited, right? And so there's only so much we're going to be able to do, even if we could work all the time. 2, you want to operate at your highest and best use. Okay? So again, we can do everything, right? We can pound the signs in the ground. We can run around filling the flyer boxes. Okay? We can personally host the open house. Okay? Are any of those things the highest and best use of our time? Okay? If we're going to maximize income, either as a phase 2 unique salesperson or a phase 3 unique entrepreneur, we have to always be moving towards highest and best use and peeling off the other vital activities to delegate. You want to eliminate peak and valley results in your sales. Again, typical salesperson goes peak and valley, right? They get a deal, they get 2 deals going, okay, now they're going crazy. When a typical salesperson is fully engaged with a buyer or seller, what do they sacrifice, typically? That's right, lead generation is what they sacrifice. I don't need to generate leads, I got one, right? And so we get totally consumed with keeping the deal together and getting through closing, and the day after closing we wake up and find ourselves unemployed, right? We don't have any clients. And so the panic sets in, then the frenzy starts, the lead generation activity gets ramped up, and then it pays off. We get a buyer seller, we work it, then we're unemployed. Peak and valley, peak and valley. If you are a unique entrepreneur, you have people on your team who are consistent on a daily basis generating leads for your business. Okay? And as you progress through the tiers, you'll add team members whose job is to convert those leads. Okay? So that eliminates the peak and valley. You want to live an abundant life. Money and time. Money and time. And then you want to get wealthy. And when we say wealthy, again, we're differentiating from rich. We would say you could get rich in phase 2, maximizing your cash flow, generating as much money as you possibly can, working as effectively and efficiently as you can and as many hours as you can in your career, but we wouldn't describe that as wealth. When we say wealth, that's truly somebody who has the money and the time to enjoy it, okay? And that only comes when you delegate. So there's a space here for any other reasons. These are just 5 why you would want to develop a team. Is there anything else that's driving you or that's come to your mind about why you would want to go down this path? Does that cover it, or is there anything else?
Well, your health is important.
Yes. That ought to be on there, absolutely. Right. You want to pursue other aspirations. You want to do other things. I want to get on the treadmill every day by about 4:30, okay? To do that, I've got to make some changes in my vital activities, and I've already committed to doing that, okay? So yes, our health is important. So let's look at each of these just a little bit more closely. We've already established the fact that your only limit is time, right? Okay, your limits are not your age, your sex, your race, your years of experience, right? Because we've seen men be highly successful. We've seen women. We've seen young people. We've seen older people. We've seen experienced agents with great success. Are there any new agents that ever experienced great success? I mean, first year, knock it out of the park. Okay, well, I got 2 examples right here, okay? Absolutely. So none of those things are limitations. Our only limitation is time. And this just breaks it down a little bit more to drive the point home. We don't get more than 24 hours in a day, 168 hours in a week, 730 hours in a month, and 8,760 hours in a year. We don't often think about it like that, do we? 8,760 in a year. That's all we get. Okay? No, it doesn't, does it? Yeah. We wish we could get more. By the way, how many hours do we get in our life? That's the unknown, isn't it? Yeah, we don't know. And so, doesn't it make sense to squeeze all the productivity out of the hours that we do have, okay, to make the most use of those, because we're not guaranteed another day or another hour. And at the bottom of this page 7, there's an interesting little exercise that walks you through the power of an hour. And I want you to see this. This, I think, will really drive the point home. The cost of wasting 1 hour per day, 6 days a week. Okay, I keep talking about squeezing waste and inefficiency out. Could you, if you were extremely focused on becoming vital, could you free up an hour in your day? Is it possible that there is an hour in your day right now being wasted? 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there, 20 minutes there. Okay? Here's the cost of that. Over 50 weeks, that's 300 hours in a year. If during those 300 hours you were focused on a lead generation activity and were able to make 30 dials, that's not 30 phone conversations, but let's just say expireds. You're able to dial 30. Most of them are not going to answer the phone, right? And if it is a valid number, it's probably going to go to voicemail. Out of 30 dials, you might only have 4 or 5 conversations, okay? But let's just say 30 dials. That's 9,000 dials that you gave up over the course of a year by wasting that hour. At a 15% talk ratio, 1 out of 7 actually answers the phone. That's 1,350 additional listing talks you could have had. Okay? Assuming a 10% conversion ratio, that doesn't mean you got the listing and sold it. That means you got an appointment. You talked to 1 out of 7, and then just 10% of those agreed to meet with you, or 1 out of 70 dials. That's a total of 135 additional listing sets, appointment sets, that you gave up. Presuming 80% of those appointments kept, in other words, they answered the door when you showed up at the appointed time, that was 108 actual conversations, face-to-face, kitchen table conversations you sacrificed. Assuming you could have taken 60% of those, a little more than half, and I suspect both of you convert at a much higher rate than that, that would be 65 additional listings you could have taken. Assuming 2/3 of those sold, and again, I suspect that's very conservative with your pricing acumen in this market, 44 additional closed transactions were given up at an average GCI of $5,000 per closing. Again, extremely conservative. That's $220,000 that was left on the table. Okay? At 65% of that, we've discounted it for taxes and business expenses. That's $143,000 of additional net income, actual money that you would have had in your hands to spend. Now, because this was a wasted hour and you've got other generation activities going on, you're going to make money anyway, you could have taken that additional $143,000, invested it, perhaps in real estate, at an 8% return, and I'm talking to investors right now about 10 to 12% returns on their money, but over 10 years, that's $2 million that you could have had sitting in the bank that is not on your balance sheet because of that one wasted hour per day. Okay? Now, by the way, this whole example presumes that if you get vital, you're going to use that hour for lead generation, right? And I'll tell you in my experience, and I've been consulting with agents for 20 years now, there are very few agents who will do that.
Well, they can't do that, Frank.
In what? Tell me why.
Because there's not enough time in the day to do those additional 44 deals.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably do 50 deals a year.
Yes.
And I'm working as much as I want. There's
Yes.
no way I could put another 44 deals on there.
Yeah, right.
It's impossible, unless you have somebody to do that for you.
Thank you.
You know, it almost makes me nervous to think, I don't want it anymore.
Yes.
I don't want to do
I'm the
any
same
more.
way.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so if we put our classes in order, we would have started with perspective, which we actually did back in December to kind of launch the new year. But that's where you really get in touch with what are my aspirations, what really does need funding in my life. And then based upon an analysis like we did earlier today, my average commission rate, my average sale price, how many transactions do I need to close this year? Okay? And as we look at those numbers, one of the questions you have to ask is, can I do that within the hours that I've allotted to my career? Okay? If not, then I face two choices. I can scale back my aspirations to what's doable, or I can start leveraging my business. If I'm not willing to sacrifice my aspirations, then I have to start building a team, because it may indeed be impossible to add 44 transactions within my career hours, but there are no limits on the number of transactions that I can accomplish if I build a team. Okay? I can literally generate millions of dollars per year in my sales career. By the way, did I just make that up? Is that literally possible? Could you lead a sales team that generates millions of dollars in commissions every year, if that was your aspiration?
If you had a team.
Yes, that's what I'm saying though. Is that legitimate?
Sure.
Well, we know it's legitimate because there are countless RE/MAX agents in this market doing it. We have RE/MAX agents in this office generating well over $1 million in commissions, okay? And if you take a broader view of the Houston metro area, we have RE/MAX agents doing $8, $10, $12 million a year in commissions with their teams, okay? So all of that's possible, okay? The goal is to be at your highest and best use for any hour that you devote to your career. Okay, and I'm not saying how many it should be, 6 hours a day, 8, 10, 12, but in every one of those, be in phase 2. Maximize your effectiveness and efficiency within that hour, okay? So here's a little blow up of what that might look like. Out of the 94 vital activities that we've identified in a sales business, 47 on the buy side, 47 on the sales side, there are only 13 that we classify as dollar productive. Vital means it has to be done. It doesn't mean you have to do it, right? Somebody has to do it, but that can be team members. What we're recommending is that while you're building a team, you focus on the 13 vital activities, and they start right at the top. We call it the dollar productive food chain because these are in order of the 13. And the number one most dollar productive thing you can do is go to a closing, right? And get paid. I mean, that's the holy grail of our business, is to get that check, okay? Beyond that closing, what is most dollar productive are the critical activities in getting a transaction to closing, okay? That would be holding a deal together, okay? It's getting a little shaky. That happens sometimes, doesn't it? Okay, that's highly dollar productive. You've already got it a contract. You're moving towards closing and something gets squirrely. That deserves your time and attention. Highly dollar productive. Negotiating offers, taking listings, writing offers, all those highly dollar productive. I'll tell you what, if you can spend a number of hours each week doing those activities, you're gonna maximize your cash flow. Beyond that, you would be dropping into the presentation box. Here's where you're having a listing conversation. You're at the kitchen table. You have an A buyer in your car. And we define an A buyer as somebody who meets all 3 tests. They're motivated, qualified, and loyal. And what we would coach is nobody else should get in your car. Okay? A B buyer only meets 2 of those tests. A C buyer only meets 1 of those tests. A D buyer meets none of those tests. Now with a C buyer and a B buyer, you're not going to write them off, right? Because they might get motivated, they might be able to get qualified, and they might be able to become loyal. So you're going to delegate them out to your ancillary arms until they become A. When they become A, they get in your car. Or a buyer in process, okay? And that would be a B or C that you're working with to get them to A, all right? If we're not going to a closing, we're not putting a transaction together, we're not actually making a presentation or having a conversation with an A buyer or a seller, then we drop down into the prospecting box. And it may be that on some days, we don't have a closing schedule. That doesn't happen every day. We don't have a transaction right at the final stage every day. We don't even have listing conversations, perhaps, or A buyers in our car every day. So if we wake up in the morning and we can't drop into one of these 3 boxes, what should we move to instinctively to be at our highest and best use?
Golf course.
Typical. The boat, the fridge, the cable. Here we go, the last box, prospecting. The beauty of the prospecting box is that it can be your first day in real estate. You have no clients, no closings, no transactions. That's right, you can always be vital. You can always be dollar productive by moving to this box. Calling or viewing FSBOs, calling or mailing to expireds, holding open houses, calling or mailing into your network, calling or mailing into a farm area, okay? So that's in order. If you've got a closing, go to that first. If you don't, do you have a transaction that needs held together? If not, do you have a presentation to make to a buyer or a seller? If not, then you need to get one. And you get one by prospecting, okay? Okay?
I tell you what, my boat has probably made me more money than anything.
There you go.
And that's out there just hanging out and meeting people.
Yeah.
You would never, and I'm not out there like, hey, we're doing that, so we're doing that. It just turns out, and next thing I know, I'm selling my house.
Sure.
It's the craziest thing.
I
Yeah.
have